Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kahlil Doheny. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Digital Niche Agency. Today, I have David Colleen, CEO of SapientX. David, how are you doing today?
Hey, everyone. Good. Thank you so much for having me today, Kahlil.
Of course. We're going to give it a couple of minutes, letting people come on in. I'm really excited about today's webinar. David and his team has been doing a remarkable job over at SapientX, and they are, currently having a start engine campaign going on right now. Let me pull up that link so I can add it to the chat box so people can follow along and know a little bit more about SapientX. Let me just pull that up.
While he's doing that, I want to thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to join us in this call. We're going to be running it in three parts. I'll show a little video of what we've been up to give you some context. I'll show our regular investor deck. And then really I want to open this up to all of you to ask hopefully some tough questions, and we'll give you some hopefully good answers to go along with this. So thank you all for coming to the call today.
Awesome. Before we get started, David, do you want to give a little background of yourself and your history and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So when I was young and had more hair, I studied architecture at Cornell and came west to San Francisco to design high-rise buildings. I sort of accidentally started a software company in 1995 because we've been using computers to do 3D visualizations of our architecture projects. That led us to put the first 3D content on the internet, literally with virtual San Francisco and neighborhoods of San Francisco. One thing led to another, and in 2003, we were asked by the government to join a team of the top AI scientists in the world to into a research project to look for bad guys on the internet. This was right after 9/11, and we developed a couple of prototypes for virtual humans based on AI systems. And it was way too early, but it was compelling stuff. And the notion that you could have a voice interface to computers and computer-based products was really exciting for us. So a dozen years ago, we were building a platform called Raygun that was a social networking and geolocated game platform that included talking characters that were driven by AI. So we brought on my old friend Bruce Wilcox onto the team. Later, I co-founded SapientX with Bruce and another old friend, Macklin Marvin. Macklin and his team with Worlds Inc. long ago built the first commercially successful metaverse. So it's interesting that this year the metaverse topic has come back into play because it goes deeply to our old roots. With Macklin and Bruce, we formed SapientX in 2016, and I think you know a big part of the story, but hopefully I'll fill in the blanks for you today. So shall I start off with a video right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me do a share
for
screen.
Everyone whoever is attending today, like David mentioned earlier, this is an open Q&A webinar. So throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please drop them in that chat box, and we will be more than happy to get those questions answered for you at the end.
The story of human evolution is also the story of human language. The better we communicate, the more we evolve. Next great evolutionary leap is communicating with machines. For the most part, it's not going too well. Speaking to voice assistants is clunky, awkward, and sometimes not even worth it. That all changes with SapientX. We built a digital brain that allows voice assistants to understand and respond to natural human conversation.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. How's your day going?
We believe voice technology only truly works if you speak to it like a friend. SapientX has the highest conversational accuracy at up to 99%. It runs offline, allowing us to keep data local where it's safest. And we're unique in that we don't collect private information or sell it to third parties.
Solo diciéndome lo que quieres. 非常好，谢謝。
私の声は録音されているの？
はい。
SapientX speaks 40 languages and dialects, making our potential market 5.5 billion people. Since closing our first funding in 2018, we've built over 20 prototypes with top companies like Yamaha, NEC, Amazon, and Mitsubishi. And this is just the beginning. And together, we can build the first generation of machines that people actually enjoy talking to.
So that's a brief overview of what we've been doing. Let me switch over to the presentation deck here. Just one second. Okay, so as I had mentioned, we began SapientX with Bruce Macklin and myself. And that was it was a good team. Our earliest conversation, oddly enough, was with Amazon. We were busy working on prototypes for their tablet group to put an assistant onto their tablet. Unbeknownst to the tablet group, Alexa was about to be released. And it turns out that another friend of mine was busy working on Alexa. I played ping pong with him every Thursday night. But for 5 years, he had been working with his team on producing the first Amazon Echo. And as soon as Alexa was released, the tablet group found out and, of course, stopped working with us. So we began working with other customers to build voice interfaces for their products. And it's an important thing to note that we are a white label software program that is geared to making other people's products talk and to give intelligence to those products. Our core team is a dozen people that really are the heart and soul of SapientX, led by our CTO Nasir and David Urbanik for product sales. But we have other really wonderful people on the team, like Junichi Fujita just joined us. He's been a consultant to our team for many years and finally came aboard. He has a wonderful background being the ex-CTO of PlayStation for Sony. Neelay is busy doing AI control of the characters. Chris is busy adding life and interactivity to the characters, and so on. I think we've got a very strong team, and this doesn't mention other people who are consulting to us around the world to help build specific detailed components of the SapientX experience. So some key things. We do things differently and I think better than other things that are out there. We got started because voice systems like Siri and Alexa just weren't working all that well for us, and we wanted to improve on that. So while Alexa misunderstands about a quarter of what you say to it, we train our systems up to 99% accuracy. So I think we're offering a higher quality experience in terms of truly understanding what people say. We also didn't like the fact that Siri and Alexa were built from the ground up to capture and sell user data. We thought that was kind of an evil thing to do. So we don't do that. While we do collect user data, it's to learn about the user and improve their user experience, not to harvest that data and sell it. We are also, because Bruce is such a talented old school programmer, our system is very efficient. We've run it on things as simple as a Raspberry Pi or a wristwatch. Contrast that to things like Google's system that requires a supercomputer and a server to run. This allows us to go into places that the other companies can't go into. There are other companies that we I suppose, compete with, like IBM Watson. They have great TV commercials, but we think they come up short when it comes to actually servicing the voice needs of a product. For all their resources, they only speak 13, and our system speaks 40 languages, allowing us to potentially serve up to 5.5 billion users worldwide. And then the last thing is our customers really want their brand experience, including the voice, and if they use an avatar, the appearance of the avatar, to reinforce their brand, not to reinforce somebody else's brand. And that's a key part of what we do. The technology that we use is a hybrid. We found early on that the basic chatbots using keywords to trigger outputs just were not pleasing customers. That's why over the past 2 years, so many chatbot companies have gone out of business, is they just weren't doing a good job of pleasing people. The bigger companies have sort of a blind belief that machine learning systems are good for everything. Well, it turns out in our testing that machine learning is not particularly good for natural language understanding, because statistically it goofs up about a quarter of the time. And when you're doing mission critical things like making a voice assistant for inside a car, you ask for the window to be rolled down or the lights to turn on, you need to have that happen reliably every single time. So our system is based on symbolic reasoning, which delivers that level of accuracy. It delivers it efficiently. We don't have to have a supercomputer. We can run that system online or offline and tailor it to the needs of our customer rather than vice versa. Literally, we run on everything. When you take a closer look at who else is in the playing field, there's a growing number of small companies, but the major players tend to be clustered. The IBMs and Series and Alexas of the world tend to require a lot of power running on a great big supercomputer server, and they deliver reasonably good accuracy. Other systems like SoundHound, while they're more efficient, their accuracy is not so good. And the same with longtime companies like Nuance and Cerence, who we run into more frequently. Cerence is the big dog in the automotive world that we're trying to displace right now. Our own system, we think, delivers the best of both worlds. We can deliver high accuracy and run it on low-powered systems. If you look at the details of our competitors, we have white label, not everyone does. We support a large number of languages, and only Nuance supports one more language than us. We work offline, which is very key for something like we're in prototypes with the largest appliance manufacturer in the world to put a voice interface into washers and dryers, air conditioners, and things like that. They can't have a reliable internet connection for those appliances. So that's a place that we can go that many of the others just can't go to. We protect data. All the other major players don't protect the user data, they sell it. And we're able to get up to 99% accuracy, which is just way beyond what the other companies are able to deliver in their voice systems. Of course, 40 different languages gives us good geographic distribution. We still have a lot of work to do. There's still many, many more languages, but we think we're off to a good start. By the way, for the record, our frequent flyer languages are English, Chinese, Japanese, and German. So early on, we started work with the automotive industry. In part because my earlier company, Planet 9, had been busy working in the auto industry, and we knew a lot of people there. So we had an early win with Mitsubishi and developed an assistant for their SUVs called Mitsubishi Mia. And that led to us working with a number of other companies, including recently with Visteon, who's the largest auto parts supplier in the US. And we did things with Magneti Marelli for the Chrysler Pacifica van. Our newest area is in digital signage. 5 years ago, we began a program with Alex Hessler, who had just left Pixar, to develop high-resolution characters that could be used on larger screens for retail assistants, showroom assistants, also in a retail setting, also in vending machines. We found that, especially with COVID, people were interested in voice interfaces so that they didn't have to touch a vending machine. In fact, surveys showed that 87% of Americans didn't want to touch vending machines anymore. So we're a natural extension of voice interfaces that people already know how to use. By placing them into vending machines, we can service a new base of customers and extend our marketplace. This is an exciting new area for us, and we're constantly working on improvements to these high-resolution characters. And then on the smart home side of things, we developed prototypes for NEC, for smart mirror programs. We did developmental work with Samsung for their TVs. They were losing a lot of sales because younger users weren't buying TVs. So they're struggling to find new ways to engage with the younger audience to recover their TV sales. And we've worked with a number of robot manufacturers. It's early days for robots, but we had worked with 3 different robot companies, including Future Robot and Misty Robotics. We think that there's a strong future in robots, although it's early right now. We have also worked in healthcare, developing prototypes for Neutrogena, for healthcare assessment, and also for senior care with Yamaha. We think that there's great growth potential in this area, in part because these assistants can monitor patients 24/7, where it's financially impractical to monitor patients with human assistants. Our virtual assistants can serve them whenever a healthcare team can't, or it's too expensive to do so. So we see a big future in this area as well. Let me talk about some of our financial opportunities and projections. The industry analysts are talking about a substantial market of $32 billion by 2025. And we think that in the short term, we can potentially access with our company roughly $5 billion of that, with the larger piece going to the more established players like Siri and Alexa. And it's growing rapidly. 43% is something to take notice of in terms of growth rates for any kind of market. I was just in a conference last week that was lamenting that smart speakers were growing very slowly over the last 2 years. Their growth rate is down to 2%. So it's definitely not a market we want to be in. We want to be quickly growing the company and offer good value to the investors. So our projections for this year are fairly modest. We're trying to get our first shipping products with customers to net us $500,000 in revenue, and then stair-stepping up from there as we're able to grow our markets. So typically our business model is based on licensing. We also have done proposals for SaaS models. For instance, the vending machine industry is more geared towards putting a vending machine into a location and charging a monthly fee for the use of that machine. We're flexible on how we make revenue. The key is to make revenue. So we're busy working hard on proposals and deals as we speak. We're currently in our third seed investment round. We've worked early on with Seed Invest and then WeFunder last year. and this year we're working with Start Engine. We're currently seeking 4.2 million, and we're roughly a third of the way there, and things are going well. We're having quite a bit of uptake, and we're very thankful for your participation in that. And also, if any of you are in the audience, some of you have continued to invest in us. You've been there from the beginning and have joined us in each raise. So hopefully you felt we were doing something right. You've come back again. We appreciate your support, and hopefully our new investors will stay with us as we grow the company. So this year, because our product is largely complete, most of our activity is shifting over to sales activities and to doing customizations specific to individual customers. Also, I'll mention that the last 2 years, because of COVID and in the auto industry, the chip shortage, business has not been what any of us have wanted. So raising funds in such times are a good way to keep the wheels on the car and keep us moving forward. So we're very thankful for you joining us as an extended part of our team and giving us the resources to continue on our mission. So going forward, our roadmap this year is to get one large solid customer. And when I talk about customers, we have worked with startups. The tendency is that their financial woes become our financial woes. So we've learned to focus most of our marketing activities on Fortune 500 companies, where we can get solid revenues and solidly move our sales forward with them. We're also preparing an SDK for the two primary game engines out there, Unreal and Unity, so that third-party developers can take our software and build products with it. It's an important way for us to grow. Next year, if we can get to 3 large customers, then we're making the numbers in our projections. Also, once we have these customers in place, then we will be ready for a Series A and get to larger levels of funding. While we're really razor focused on building a great company, we have to realize that there's a larger context to this. We track 35 different peer companies, and 27 of them have been acquired already. While we're not certain that that's our outcome, that is one very likely outcome, because these larger companies have been quickly taking our peers off of the market and involving them in a larger company. We seek the highest orbit for our software, and that may well be by being part of a larger company, so that we can access their existing customer base and get our software into as many products as possible. And when I talk about exits, historically, these have been really strong exits with excellent multiples, returning large amounts of money to the investors. There's a stat from CB Insights that shows that AI companies in particular are returning twice as much revenue to investors as other technology companies. And I think that's pretty exciting for any investor. We've also already been approached by several companies who are tracking us very carefully, including Amazon, Samsung, and Cerence. We think it's a little too early for M&A activities, but it's interesting that they've already engaged with us. Many of you are interested in the IPO market, and we certainly don't rule out an IPO. But there are also industry stats that show that acquisition in our space has yielded twice as much revenue for investors as IPOs. So if it all was happening tomorrow, I would say that the best path for an exit is through acquisition. We'll keep you posted. So that's our traditional investor presentation. And I'm going to stop the share at this point. And we have a good amount of time left to open things up for questions. Once again, hit me with your best, toughest questions. That's what I'm here for. Oh, by the way, you can see one of our characters behind me. That's Sage, our 6 foot tall character prototype that we're showing to people in retailing, at airports, train stations, things like that, to act as guides for people to inform them or to sell them products. We're very excited about that as a product area for us to help grow our product line.
I have a question. How much time and resources does it take to, create one of those characters?
So something I have to talk about. We decided early on to offer 3D characters, partly because the research strongly shows that a voice-only experience has a limited successfulness with consumers. The study showed up to 25% improvements in user satisfaction and trust if an avatar was coupled with the voice. Now, most voice software companies don't do avatars, in part because it's hard. It requires skill sets outside of their domain areas, and they're uncomfortable with that. Now, since our focus is in delivering voice systems and not to be an avatar company, what we are connecting dots to is to existing avatar systems that 3D artists can take and run with to deliver anything from a highly realistic human appearing avatar to abstract or cartoonish avatars, Disney style. All of those are valid. And the decision about whether to use an avatar or not, and what that avatar looks like and sounds like, is very much up to the companies that we're working with, because it's part of their brand experience. So we coach them on the science behind this and get their involvement in the appearance of those avatars. So with that said, shall I start taking some questions here? I've got the first 3 questions that popped up here.
Yes, let's do it. But before we jump into the questions, I do want to put a quick disclaimer out there. There are some questions that are probably going to be asked around financials and around any terms related to the campaign. Unfortunately, we can't speak to those questions publicly. But if you'd like to learn a little more about those financials and the terms, please visit the Start Engine page. Everything is on there. And then if you do have a question about that, please message David personally, and he'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Just everything, if we talk about it on this webinar, it just needs to be allowed for everyone to have that same information.
Yeah, just echoing what Kahlil just said, I will have a high level of transparency with you, but there are some guidelines that we have to observe because of SEC rules. So hopefully you'll realize that I'm not trying to keep you away from information. Just stay with it. I'm trying to stay between the lines here. So the first question here is Stuart Miller. He's asking, let's see. I just clicked answer this question live. Does that question then get shared with everyone?
I will also ask the question.
Okay.
What existing projects or opportunities are the closest to licensing deals and eventually revenue? What are the steps to get there, and what hurdles are there?
Okay, great question. Let me take the points one by one. So right now, our proposals, active proposals, are and the projects that we think are closest to going forward. One is for an airport. We have a partner, and we're trying to grow our company through having good relationships with partners and value-added retailers in different locations. This one's in Canada. We also have partners in Japan, in Germany, and England, as well as the US. So with this proposal that we're waiting on a go-ahead on, It would be a character on a large screen, just like the one you see behind me, that would be available within an airport to do simple things like you've just arrived and you're looking for your connecting flight. She can tell you where your next terminal is, what gate to go to, and how to get there. If you need something simple like where is the bathroom, she can answer that for you. She can tell you what luggage carousel your luggage is in. We've also done proposals for Deutsche Bahn, a German railway system. And an interesting part of these airport and train station systems is that they typically have a lot of international visitors. So we're able to use our multi-language capabilities to serve people in most any language they speak. And something that our team is actively working on in R&D right now is the ability to automatically detect what language you're speaking and then have the assistant respond in that language. So I think that's pretty exciting stuff. Another proposal that we're waiting on, actually we're beginning work on now, is an assistant for trade shows. It's a little bit like the assistants for airports and train stations, but for trade shows, the sets of questions that can be answered is a little bit different. So for instance, you would ask that assistant for the trade show, where can I find David speaking? Which room is he in? What time is he talking? I want to see the SapientX booth. Can you tell me where that is and how to get there? Where's the bathroom? All those sorts of nutsy boltsy questions we can answer. I'll also tell you that one of our earliest prototypes was for Lowe's, the large home goods and hardware store. I remember going to Home Depot one time and asking somebody what a come-along was. And I went through 6 young sales assistants, and they finally dragged out the old guy. And he was the only one who knew what a come-along was. Well, our assistant for Lowe's can tell you in 2 seconds where the come-along is, or any other piece of hardware in the store, and tell you what aisle it's in and if it's on sale or not. So there's a lot of cool things that we can do. We are also being evaluated right now by a major fast food chain for having assistants that can help with food service, ordering, advising the team behind the counter on everything from inventory topics to how to prepare things, checking in with them on how much time they're taking for tasks, all those sorts of things like you might have seen in the Black Mirror episode, but we're going to keep it on the good side. So what hurdles are there? The biggest hurdles that we're facing right now, Stuart, are a lot of our customers have been slumbering during the COVID period, and they're starting to wake up. We've done more proposals this year than we did in the 2 years prior, so that's exciting. But I can't say that business is as robust as it was before the pandemic. So we're doing everything that we know how to do, following the ABCs of sales and marketing. That means us getting off our duffs and going out to trade shows and meeting people and doing the traditional things that are involved in acquiring customers, getting to proposals, and beginning to sell our product into their product. So it's a lot of work, but we're committed to doing it. So hopefully that answers your questions.
And I have a follow-up question to that. Speak a little bit about hurdles, but SapientX has done multiple crowdfunding campaigns now. Has there been hurdles from those crowdfunding campaigns that you've learned and overcame with the one that you're currently running right now?
I'd say not so much hurdles as just wonderful things. Mm-hmm. I'll confide in you. We early on started by calling our VC friends, and they would meet with us and they'd nod their head and they would keep track of us, but they wouldn't write checks. And so one of our advisors, Patty Glovsky, not advisors, but board members, she's an investment banker herself, really tied to the investment community. she suggested we try what was a new thing at the time, crowdfunding, and we did our first successful raise at SapientX, raising $450,000. What we found in the investment community was people who understood what we were doing, understood the vision, and they got their checkbooks out immediately. And it was a very efficient process for us, much more efficient than going door to door calling on the VCs. The following year, we thought we would graduate to the seed investor community. So we called on everybody and their brother. We were accepted by Keiretsu Forum. And at the end of the day, they put us through lots of hurdles. We wasted a lot of time. We raised $45,000 through that process. It was pitiful. So the next year we returned to crowdfunding again and raised $850,000 at SapientX. And this year you guys are helping us to hit it out of the park. And we're nearing a total of 4,000 investors. So we're very thankful for what you guys are doing for us and helping us to achieve. And we're achieving it efficiently because while the individual investments may not be as big as the $1 million checks that the VCs write, it's like watching a barrel fill with raindrops. Eventually it becomes full, and it does that without a whole lot of work on our part, which is dynamite, because that allows us to focus on business, developing product, developing customers, and doing what businesses should be doing rather than raising funds. So thank you so much for that.
Of course. And then we have John Kruer who has his hands up. Let me allow him to talk here.
Hey, John. Thanks for coming today. You're muted. If you unmute yourself.
Okay. There we go.
Sorry, the hand up was an accident.
No worries.
Okay. Well, thanks. Where are you calling in from today?
Southern Wisconsin.
Excellent. Well, I grew up across the lake in Michigan.
Ah,
So have you invested, or are you just thinking about it right now?
I have invested,
Thank you.
and I might add to my investment after today's presentation.
Well, I appreciate that. So do you have any questions that come to mind since we have you? Since we
No,
have you
nothing
online
that
here?
nothing I can think of right now.
Okay.
John, what stood out of SapientX that made you want to invest?
I think your claim that you're like 99% efficient at answering the questions, because I know when I talk to Google or Alexa, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge, and we use those products every day, so we're familiar with what they do and what they can't do. But I have to be clear, 99% is what we test to internally. Out in the field, conditions may vary. I was in a meeting with 20 Japanese engineers, and we had them try the voice assistant, and typically with somebody with a heavy accent, we may get as little as 70% accuracy. But they said, no, you don't get it. With the other systems, they don't understand this at all. 70% is great.
Nice.
We want to make voice systems that work well for everybody, and it's a big challenge, and we get a little bit better at it each year. So it's a constant thing we're striving towards.
Sounds good.
We had another person raise their hand.
Well, thank you.
Was that Lynette?
Yes. I think she might have put her hand down.
Lynette, did you still have a question? I have another question here from, there's Sean Solomon, or pardon me, Salmon. Let's take his question. Hey, Sean.
Hi. Hey,
thanks for coming to the call.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I had a question about the, I know it's a little bit early, but the next milestone in terms of the next raise campaign, how soon will that be?
So let me talk about it from a product and from a finance standpoint. So what's really important to us this year, our mission is to begin having our software being products that begin being sold to our customers' customers. That's a key milestone for us. Our board is a little on the conservative side. They feel we should not go to the venture community for a Series A until we begin selling product. That's also one of the reasons is valuations. We don't want to give away the store just to get the VC's money. We want to come from a position of strength where we have already demonstrated the viability of the product in a commercial setting. So that's good. Luckily, the code is in a good place, and I'll tell you that Bruce, before we formed SapientX, used an earlier version of the software with the game company Outfit 7, which, by the way, had a $1 billion exit. They were the folks behind the iPhone game Talking Tom and Talking Angela, and they had a total of 65 million downloads of that application. So as we used to say, the software is taxi tested tough. Does that answer your question, Sean?
Certainly, absolutely. Thanks for that.
Hey, thank you so much for asking. We have another hand raised there just a second ago.
Let me.
While we're looking for that, let me answer David Komatow's question.
I was typing to David. I'd like to not ask that question. That's according to terms and financials. David.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. He's asking for financial. Yeah, okay.
I just want to remind everyone, please reference the Start Engine page for any questions regarding terms, financials, and anything in the future. Yeah, just again, we can't speak to it publicly on this webinar, but please reference the Start Engine page. And then,
so there's a couple of questions I see, including one from Paul Whitaker about when does the round convert. So the key thing when you're investing as an equity investor at a seed level, the time that it converts is at a liquidity event. And a fancy investor term for when we get acquired, when we IPO, when we merge with another company, those are all liquidity events. Now, that said, there is a new secondary market that you may have seen on Start Engine where people are trading shares. That's kind of a new thing, and that's another way to exchange shares with others prior to a liquidity event. But traditionally, the liquidity event is what you're looking for, and hopefully we'll make a very big one for you. That's our goal. We have a question from Francis White. Do you have any plans for doing educational things? So I love education as a market, and I'd love to be doing things with school kids. The difficult thing over the years is we found that education is poorly funded, and that's really sad for me. We had a proposal last year with a wonderful startup in Chicago called Charlala, and they are doing language education for school kids. Their first version is teaching English-speaking kids how to speak Spanish. And the way they teach is conversationally. So they wanted to use our characters to just talk like you just met somebody and you're talking in Spanish to them and they're responding in Spanish. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But they really have tough times with funding. So we want to bring our software to the highest places, and that means keying on customers that have money to use what we build. And we hope it changes for education, but that's kind of been our history of working with educational companies. Let's see what else is on the list here.
We have a question from George. What do you think was the basis for the hesitancy from the VCs who haven't jumped in yet?
Oh, thanks, George. I should have explained more. The reasons the VCs don't jump on at the beginning of a company when they're first starting is, and I'm talking in generalities here, is they won't invest. They may say they invest early, but a lot of that is just talk. The reality is they don't want to invest until all the risk has gone out of the investment, and that's when you are selling product and have sold at least $1 million a year of product. That's when they really get serious. Now, there are some exceptions to that. You'll see it in the news occasionally, like when the Siri team left Apple and started a new company. They raised $10 million just overnight practically. And it was because they had a strong track record, a strong brand, and they got snapped up quickly by Samsung. So good for them, but that doesn't describe the normal startup curve of investment. We maintain good relationships with our friends in the venture community. I regularly update them. And I think we all know that our time will come when we are a right fit for them investing. And because we've had a relationship with them that has gone for 6 years now, they know who we are. They've been watching us. And when the time is right, hopefully they'll step in and become our investment partners. Let's see, question here from Stephen Hart. Do you see an application for translators? I would see this for Zoom type meetings as well as online videos, maybe with a screen in-screen avatar. Well, Stephen, funny you should mention it, but we're thinking just like you. We launched over a year ago our Kelly assistant that is, think of her as a plug-in attendee to Zoom meetings. You can literally send an email to Kelly and she'll show up in your Zoom meeting. And while that's cool, we want to make sure Kelly was doing useful things in the meeting. So we have in prototype, Kelly takes notes. She summarizes the meeting. She keeps track of the action items. At the end of the meeting, she emails the notes to everybody and emails the to-do list to people. She's not yet checking up on you to make sure that you did what you said you were going to do, but one step at a time. Another key function that Kelly has working in prototyping is what we call in the industry question answering from unstructured data. What that means is you could literally make available a company document repository to Kelly, and she could search through it. So let's say you're in a sales meeting and somebody says, now, what were the sales figures for our Dallas operation last August? And Kelly could go look through all the documents, find that, bring that information back to the meeting. So we think those are really important, useful things. A future feature that we've been asked for a couple times now is translation. Frequently, I'm, for instance, talking to customers in Japan, and I'll be in a Zoom meeting with them. A tendency is the younger people from Japan on the call speak English beautifully. Some of the older folks with more gray hair like me, their English is not so good. So if we could do simultaneous translation into Japanese for them, and then translate their Japanese back to English for me, that would be a huge win. And we have customers that are interested in that as a feature. So thank you for suggesting it. I think it's a good idea. Let's see here. Paul Whitaker is asking, have we signed up for the secondary market on Start Engine? I don't know too much of the details about that. I don't know that that's something we have to talk about or have to do at our end. Kahlil, are you able to add any color on that topic, since I'm not so knowledgeable?
Just to be safe, send us a message offline, and we can give you more information on that.
Okay, so let's take that one offline. Let's see here. David Flanagan is asking, sorry?
No, go ahead.
David's asking, so help us understand what happens when a Series A funding round happens with a VC. Does this dilute our positions, or how does that work? Yes, it dilutes your position. So I don't think that's something you should necessarily worry about. You will have a smaller piece of a bigger pie. And traditionally, companies need that Series A funding to get to the next level of business, because startups are very cash intensive and need working capital in order to achieve the high orbit that they are seeking. Many startups go on from a Series A to do a Series B or C or D round before they get to a good place where they're revenue positive and making good returns for their investors. So these are just normal parts of the curve. And going back to the investor deck that I showed you, the tracking that we do of peers showed that before their exits, historically, they had raised about $16 million at a Series A level. And very few of them had exited prior to that Series A. So that's a bit of a milestone for them, and perhaps for us as well. Let's see. We have an anonymous one. The anonymous person says, I, along with many others, I'm sure, have invested in several startups. How will we profit from this? I think we actually already answered that one. It's at the time of liquidity. That's when you profit, as another company would be offering to buy out your shares, presumably, hopefully for a big upgrade in value for you. Let's see. Francis is asking, how many languages do we have in our catalog? 40 languages. 40 languages and dialects. So for instance, English, we speak American English, British English, as well as Indian English. We have proposals and discussions active in India right now with large car makers and satellite TV providers and things like that need us to speak more than just English. India is tough. There's about 300 different languages spoken there, so we'll take them one at a time. And so far, we speak English and Hindi. Another anonymous question, do you have a timeline for going public? So right now in the marketplace, going public does not appear to be our best option. But this is also not the best time to be talking about that, because we don't think that we're ready. Typically, companies don't go public until they have a market cap of $100 million roughly. Now, my next door neighbor is the head of Joby Aviation. They did something that's increasingly popular these days, and that's running a SPAC, where they merge with a paper company who's already listed, or a company that's moribund. I know a company that merged with a mining company that had no revenues, but they had a stock listing. So we will do whatever is best for the company and for the investors. At the moment, that means sticking to our knitting and building value in the company and beginning to service our first customers. Let's see, Barry. Hey, Barry, how you doing? what happens if the VC or grand poobahs dilute us to nothing, i.e. 100 or 1,000 to 1? Well, I don't see that happening, Barry. And once again, your shares won't be losing value if we're doing things right. They'll be dramatically gaining in value. And if we raise, let's just say that at the end of the current round that we're raising with Start Engine, just for talking purposes, let's say we've raised $10 million. And then at a Series A level, we want to raise another $10 million through VCs. That means our market cap will be going up 2x. That means that your shares will be diluted by 50%, but you'll be these shares will be at part of a bigger company in terms of the valuation doubling. Now, also, if we're doing things right, that share price will also be going up. So you'll be making a paper profit at the time that we would do that investment with VCs. So happy to answer more questions about that, but that's how this goes.
We are almost at time here.
We're getting all sorts of different good questions here, though.
I know. I wish we can keep going, but the it is set for 1 hour, and the recording does stop automatically at the 1 hour mark. But we'll do, we'll wrap it up here. And if you have any other questions at the start on the Start Engine page, there is a comment section. So please ask your comments on that. Sorry, my dog is going a little crazy right now. Yeah, please ask your questions on that Start Engine page, and we'll be more than happy to answer it. And for whoever, didn't get a chance to attend today's webinar, like I mentioned, it is recorded, and we will post it on the Start Engine page in the next couple of days. I guess one last question, David, is what can we do to help SapientX?
Well, you folks are already doing it by becoming a part of our team as investors. You're helping us to achieve our mission. We're very thankful for that. And we take it very seriously, building value for you. It's the very least that we can do. I also take communications with you seriously. We have 2 more webinars scheduled for next month. So please attend those as well. You can ask even more questions. And I'll also tell you that if you go to our website and hit the email link, I'll make sure I answer your questions personally if you have them. And my commitment to you is I'll answer them within 24 hours. And if I don't do that, it must mean I'm in an airplane or something. But I'll do my best to answer your questions and to give you good transparency and information, because we're in this together. We're an extended family and team, and that's really important to us. So thank you. I appreciate you taking all of your time this afternoon with me on the call here, and hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, thank you, David, for this awesome webinar, and can't wait for the next 2.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good one.